you everybody for joining today evening's Bhagavad Gita systematic study program. We'll start with prayers and then we'll get into the topic, chapter 9, text 33. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaivam Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jaitam Udirate Nashtaprayasya Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtakim. So I'm going to change my screen now. We'll go to Veda base. Has my screen come up? Is it visible to everybody?
No.
I can see only picture, Prabhuji.
Okay, I'll have to share. Is it visible now?
Yeah.
Yes, now it's.
Okay, thank you, Ajay Prabhu.
Thank you.
So I'll recite the shloka, and then devotees, if you could then read out the shloka. Okay. Kim punar brahmana punya bhakta rajar sayastatha antyam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasva mam. Kim punar brahmana punya bhakta rajar sayastatha anityam asukha lokam ima prapya bhajasva mam. Kim punar brahmanaha punya bhakta rajar sayastatha antiyam asukham lokam ima prapya bhajasva mam. Any Prabhu, Mataji, please try.
Kim punar brahmana punya bhakta rajaras tatha anityam ashukham lokam imam prapya bhajasva tamam.
Very good, Puneet Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Anybody else, please?
Kim punar brahmana punya bhakta rajat sayastata anityam asukam lokam imam prapya bhajasva mam.
Yes, Ajay Prabhu. Anyone else, please?
Kim punar brahmana punya bhakta rajarsyas tatha anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasvamam.
Thank you, Shachi Mata. Anyone else?
Kim punar brahma punya bhakta rajasya tatha anityam anusukham lokam imam prapya bhajasvamam.
Thank you, Savita. I'll read out now the synonyms, translation, and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Kim, how much? Punaha, again. Brahmanaha, brahmanas. Punyaha, righteous. Bhaktaha, devotees. Raja Rishayaha, saintly kings. Tatha, also. Anityam, temporary. Asukham, full of miseries. Lokam, planet. Imam, this. Prapya, gaining. Bhajasva, be engaged in loving service. Mam, unto me. Translation. How much more this is so of the righteous brahmanas, the devotees, and the saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary miserable world, engage in loving service unto me. purport. In this material world, there are classifications of people, but after all, this world is not a happy place for anyone. It is clearly stated here, Anityam asukha lokam. This world is temporary and full of miseries, not habitable for any sane gentleman. This world is declared by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be temporary and full of miseries. Some philosophers, especially Mayavadi philosophers, say that this world is false, but we can understand from Bhagavad Gita that the world is not false, it is temporary. There is a difference between temporary and false. This world is temporary, but there is another world which is eternal. This world is miserable, but the other world is eternal and blissful. Arjuna was born in a saintly royal family. To him, also the Lord says, take to my devotional service and come quickly back to Godhead, back home. No one should remain in this temporary world, full as it is with miseries. Everyone should attach himself to the bosom of the Supreme Personality of Godhead so that he can be eternally happy. The devotional service of the Supreme Lord is the only process by which all problems of all classes of men can be solved. Everyone should therefore take to Krishna consciousness and make his life perfect. Om Agnyantimirantasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kant Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishnabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedant Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you, Prabhus, Matajis, for joining today's program. Text 9, chapter 9, text 33. But what we're going to do today is, this is the last section. Text 9, as you know, has 4 sections. This is the last section from chapter text 26 right through text 34. So we are on a second last text of the section and also of the entire chapter. It's coming to a close. So tomorrow will be text 34 and then we complete the most confidential knowledge. Someone could please mute. Thank you. So, so what we'll do is we'll go through a revision on the entire chapter 9, and then what our learning focus is going to be, on this section 4, how to become an exclusive devotee of Krishna. And what we mean by exclusive is not part-time, like, of course, I am a part-time, most of the time my mind is somewhere else, and little bit of engagement in Krishna conscious activities, japa in the morning, Bhagavatam class, and evening. But how we can become an exclusive devotee of Krishna? This method, Krishna explains in this most confidential knowledge. One is how we understand that bhakti is a very simple process. That is 9.26, Patram Pushpam verse. Then after that is how we can perform common everyday activities. Just by performing that, how you could get to be a exclusive devotee of Krishna. And then the principle of Yukta Vairagya, detachment and attachment. So the things that we get detached from, those very things you could attach it in the application of our sadhana, in the application of devotional service. So just by doing these three things, one can gradually come to be a full-time and exclusive devotee of Krishna. Then how Krishna responds? What does Krishna do? Krishna is a person. It's not a stone or something abstract like energy. Of course, energy, he is Shakti, is energy, he is Shaktiman, the possessor of energy. But when we say the supreme personality of Godhead, personality is the attribute of a person. So that supreme person, Krishna, correct? So people respond. So when we are doing bhakti, when we are doing sadhana, when we are Krishna reciprocates, how he reciprocates. So that is in text 29, how his relationship is with everyone, whether someone is a devotee or not a devotee. And then what's so special about a devotee? That's what text 29 talks about. And then for his devotees, how does he handle any fallback or setbacks? So there are devotees, sometimes they may commit some fault. It could be a small fault or it could be a very serious fault. How does Krishna respond to it? And then what he promises to his devotee. Correct? 31. And unlike our promise, because we are faulty, sometimes we may keep a promise, doable if able, and sometimes we may not keep a promise. But whatever Krishna keeps his promise, there's nothing which can change that. Then finally, why is the path of bhakti glorious? What is so important about bhakti? What's the big deal about bhakti? So what we can understand over here, text 32 says that, one person's background or whatever condition he is, it is neither a qualifier nor a disqualifier. So bhakti is universal. It is available for everyone and anyone, literally. We make distinction. This person is a sinner. This one is like that. This is karmi. This is ye, wo. All those things that we do over there. Judgmental. Bhakti doesn't look at what you are. Bhakti looks at what you can become. So why is the path of bhakti glorious? One is it is universal. Then why engage in bhakti? That is today's text. And then finally, the conclusion tomorrow, why bhakti is the only means for self-realization and for establishing a relationship with the Supreme. That is tomorrow's text. Most likely, I think, I'm not sure, Simeshwar Prabhu will know. Madhupati Prabhu usually takes class on Fridays. So, whoever the speaker is would cover this 9.34. And we bring it all together, then all these, the summary of chapter 9, understanding what is the purpose of this most confidential knowledge. Why has Krishna spoken this? What is that purpose? And then how that we understand whatever we'll try and cover today, and understanding the purpose, how we could implement it to improve our own sadhana and to improve everyone else's around us and to the larger humanity and every living entity, whomever we come in contact with. So, of course, I owe my respectful obeisances to Gauranga Priya Prabhu. I've never met him, from Radha Gopinath Mandir Brahmachari. but I'm so intimate and so thankful for his notes. This is my mainstay in Bhagavad Gita, and so nicely it explains. I've used that basis for preparing today's class, and also so many Vaishnava speakers before me who spoke yesterday. Hari Kishore Prabhu, before that Subala Prabhu, Prem Sarovar Mataji, so many Hema Jagannath Prabhu, they shared their realizations, such wonderful. So bits and pieces I've picked up here and there, and then also listening from my Guru Maharaj and so many of his god brothers, the sannyasis and so many Vaishnavas. That's what we have put all this together. This picture which you see on the left, I especially like, how to become an exclusive devotee. From childhood itself, it becomes just second nature to you. It is not alien. But because most of us, oh, I'm sorry. My wife says that you cannot see the, can you see the PowerPoint?
Now we can, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm not all that great technically, but okay, at least it's going. So from childhood, when someone engages, it remains. It becomes his nature, his or her nature. But most of us came to our Krishna consciousness already when some level of way of living and habits and all that had been formed. So it's a little bit difficult trying to switch gears, but it is possible. It's not impossible. It is very much possible. Just a little effort and just a little consistency can take us where we want to be. Okay. So overview very quickly. There's confidential knowledge. The first principle is we are not the body, we are the soul. Who are you? Aham Brahmasmi. I am the spirit soul. I'm not the body. We identify with the body, but that's not who I am. I am the spirit soul. That is chapter 2 and 3. Then it gets to be a little bit more advanced about knowledge of Krishna consciousness. What is Krishna consciousness all about? That is 7 and 8. And then finally, we have chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge. It is how one can engage in that pure unalloyed. Unalloyed means no other mixture. That, I'm not doing this because I want something in return. Nothing like that. So that's why the most confidential, it is chapter 9. And as other speakers, and you heard this before also, 18 chapters in Bhagavad Gita, this is in the middle. So whatever is precious, we always keep it protected around. So everything else of the Bhagavad Gita, each word, each sentence is so precious. But all that, encircling chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge. So chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge, it's known as, has 4 sections. So we can see over here, we've covered 3 sections so far. And it talks about hearing and qualification, Krishna's relationship to the material world, and then how people who neglect bhakti, why are they called fools? And the divine is someone who's transcendental, is why they don't neglect bhakti. And then finally, section 4, which brings it all together from text 26 to 34. We'll have a quick summary of these and the glories. It's called the glories of the devotional service. So how we could apply these section 4 in our life is that, it gives us a reason why worship Krishna and why it is superior, and how he takes an interest, direct connection with, whoever is engaging in bhakti. Then understanding what is the relationship of Krishna and devotee. So here, when we have that knowledge, we can actually, when we're doing things, it doesn't become ritualistic, it isn't mechanical. We understand the basis behind it. And then finally, the most essential quality of bhakti is that Krishna reciprocates personally with his devotee. Personal. Each of us has a personal connection with Krishna. And that is revealed, and that brings us closer and closer and closer to him. So we'll see how we'll be applying this in the coming. So the first one is how to become an exclusive devotee of Krishna. Okay. So this verse 9.26, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, If one offers me with love, a devotion, a flower, fruit, I will accept it. So simple. What does this mean is literally anyone can do bhakti. There's no qualification or disqualification. It's not that, oh, he's a Muslim, he's a Jew, he's a Sikh, he's a Hindu, he's this, he's that, he's rich, he's poor, he's illiterate, he's educated. No. Anyone, and as long as you have a heartbeat, as long as you are a jiva, a living entity, spirit, soul, you can engage in bhakti. It is easy and it is universal. So it's so simple. Anyone can afford a leaf. You don't have to make a chappan bhog to give it to Krishna. Something as simple as a small little leaf. The only condition is offer it with some feelings, offer it with love. And it is the only means to approach Krishna. Krishna very specifically says what he accepts and what he will not accept. It's not that I just do it casually. Man mein jo aaya maine kiya. No, there is a certain systematic way of what we do. And it is not causal. We're all used. We have been raised as cause and effect. You do this, that will happen. You do that, this will happen. But bhakti is nothing to do with whatever efforts that we put in. It is his mercy. It is his mercy. And it also tells us that Krishna is the only enjoyer. And getting engaged in the service that gives him pleasure, from that we derive, the spirit soul derives pleasure. Also, it gives the instruction offer what Krishna only wants. We spoke about this a little while ago. Then why we should make an offering? Look at the example of eating. All of us eat to live. You can't, if you don't eat, the body will just wilt and it will die. So eating is a very fundamental necessity. It is a need. So if you look at it as food that we eat, whom does it belong to? We cannot say it belongs to us. Belong means proprietorship, and proprietorship means control. You can't control the food. Whatever food we buy, we may buy it with our money, but we have no control over it. Whom does all this belong to? Everything belongs to Krishna. Now, of course, I need food to eat. But if I just take something, I come to your house, I open the fridge, and I start eating whatever is in there. Of course, I'm hungry, I'm dying of hunger. Is that okay? So a necessity doesn't justify a criminal act. You cannot say, I stole money or I pickpocketed because my child was hungry. There is a consequence for it. So similarly, the simple act of us eating food, whatever food is there, nature has provided us. It doesn't belong to us. So whatever we eat, we are getting implicated in sin. So the very fact that we are eating is implicating us in sin. So that is why we make this offering called bhoga. It is Krishna's only. Krishna has done it for our purpose. So what we are acknowledging that. Hey Krishna, thank you for what you, and how you offer it. We offer it in a manner of feelings and love and devotion. That's what he accepts. So if you see here, if someone offers me with love and devotion, this also defeats the impersonal attitude. There is another school of thoughts which say that, the superpower or the ultimate absolute truth is not a person. It's just abstract. It's just the truth. It has no form, nothing. But here Krishna himself says, if you offer me a leaf of fruit, so when you're making an offering, you make an offering to a person. You don't make an offering to a table or a chair, an inanimate object. You make it to a entity. So it defeats the impersonal school of thought. Then the next is whatever you do, whatever you eat. So what this teaches us, this verse, is how to mold our life so that we don't forget Krishna. You know that instruction, always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. So whatever we do, When you get engaged in that, you make it as an offering, then it just automatically, you're always thinking of Krishna, you're always thinking of Krishna, you're never forgetting Krishna. So literally, whatever work that we're doing, if it becomes an offering, I go with the intention. If I go to work, I get a salary. And whatever salary that I get, money that I earn from my business, I may be a businessman, I use it in the service of Krishna. I use it to buy food, vegetables with which I make bhoga, with which I'll prepare an offer to Krishna. So that act itself becomes, the work itself becomes an act of devotional service. And like this with every little activity that we're doing, if we dovetail it all to Krishna, you don't forget Krishna. So, by eating prasadam, doing whatever duty that we have, keeping Krishna in the center, if there's any charity that we do, a grahastha is required, duty bound to do charity. Of course, there are people who do, there are so many charities available. Charities which help for the body, either to feed the poor, hospitals to take care of the sick, institutions, schools to educate for the mind. So it is all related to the body. It could either be the gross body or it could be the subtle body. But there are very few charities which are actually doing for the soul, for who we really are. So a charity which takes care of both the body and the soul, that is the best place that a grahastha can engage in sharing whatever is the wealth or whatever is the bounty that Krishna has provided him. Similarly, austerity is nothing but a self-control. We can do that by chanting japa. Then the next verse, 98, with your mind fixed on me, the yukta vairagya principle. What is yukta vairagya? Yukta vairagya is anything and everything could be used in the service of Krishna. Today, whatever we do, it is I am in the center, I, me, myself, mine, and all these extensions around me. So anything and everything that we do, every thought that we have, every word that we speak, every deed that we do is all centered around me. I am the cause and I am the beneficiary of it. And when I say I, it could also mean my wife, my child, my friend, my sister, my country, my religion, my, I, me. So that it is what is happening. I'm in the center. Now that very same act can be transformed if we get detached. Remove I, that is that detachment from the center, and put Krishna, that is that attachment, that very act you remove from point A and plug it into point B. Point A is me, point B is Krishna. That is yukta vairagya. What happens when you get doing this? Renunciation doesn't mean that you sit in the jungle. Abhi mere ko kuch nahi chahiye. Sit in the lotus pose. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Impossible. No one can control the mind. Arjun, such a great warrior, he could control the wind, but he says, I can't control my mind. But Yukta Vairagya helps you. It cleans the mind, Cheto Darpanam Arjanam. And as this happens, one progresses in his realization. So it's not just knowledge that a person gets. It's the realizations which come about. And this helps someone surrender his false ego. False ego is not understanding who I am. I am the body. And everything I'm doing is related to this bodily platform. That's the the entire Gita's instruction comes in one verse, 18th chapter, Sarva Dharman Parityaja. Abandon all varieties of religion, duty, this, that, and all, and simply surrender to me. That's surrender. So Yukta Vairagya principle helps the jiva to surrender. Now, how Krishna responds? We engage in all this. So he says in 29, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me, in devotion is a friend. He is in me, and I'm also a friend to him. Now, this is kind of a little tricky, because on one end, we say that Krishna is the father of everyone. God is the father of all, the supreme creator. We are all his children. Can parents do partiality with one child to another? So what this understanding from this verse is, Krishna doesn't interfere with our free will. If he wants, he can very easily. Nothing moves without his sanction, not even a leaf. So what's the big deal with our little tiny capabilities for Krishna to put us completely under control and subdue us? Nothing. But there is this free will. He doesn't interfere with that. Why free will? Why did Krishna bestow free will? Because love can only be done out of choice and not by force. You can't force someone love me. Externally, the person may say, yeah, I love you. And this is what happens when someone becomes very powerful or famous. Everyone says, I love you, I love you, I love you. It's external. Because some kind of a benefit I, me, myself is getting. The moment that benefit stops, love is over. You can't force someone to love you. Love is spontaneous. Love is a choice. So that is free will. So what Krishna says, he has the free will. If you want to love him, he reciprocates. If you don't want to love him, he'll still provide for you, like the rain. The rain doesn't discriminate where it falls. It will fall in the ocean also. The ocean is full of water. Rain falls, water. It falls in the ocean also. The sun doesn't care where it shines. It will shine on the shikhar of the temple. It will also shine on the stool of a dog on the road. The sun doesn't discriminate. So Krishna provides everything to everyone, even to people who are atheists and even to people who hate him and envy him. The food, air, water, capabilities, intellect, Krishna provides to everybody. But if in your free will, you use it to engage in a relation with Krishna, he responds to you. Otherwise, he's neutral, like a judge. He's like a judge. He just distributes whatever is there. Aapko aana hai, most welcome. With open hands, he'll take it. One step you take to him, he'll take 100 steps towards you. And we know the story, correct? As Vamana Dev, as a dwarf, 2 steps he covered the entire. So this is answered about how Krishna is impartial. Krishna is in everyone as Paramatma, as the super soul. But devotees are in him. I remember I used to read many years ago. There was a philosopher called Khalil Gibran from Lebanon. And he used to write. He was a deep thinker from the Christian faith from Lebanon. And he had written, many of his thoughts are very close to the Vaishnav thinking. And he had written on love. What is love? So he says, love, people say God is in me, Paramatma, which is correct. It's a fact. God is in me. But those who truly love are in God's heart. So everyone says God is in my heart. But if you truly love, you are in God's heart. So like this, Krishna is in everyone. But if you love him, you're in his heart. So here then the next comes to Krishna's behavior with his devotee. Now all of us have some kind of habits, some kind of conditioning, correct? And when we have these habits and conditioning, it's almost automatically things that we are not supposed to do happens. Intellectually we know this is wrong, but it's such a strong force. Maybe we'll just convince ourselves or just accidentally it happens. But still, Krishna says, even if someone commits the most heinous action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is considered saintly. If you remember in the front, at the first starting, we had said there is no consideration of your background, who you are, what you are. It's who you can become. It's considered. There was a very nice discussion a couple of days back. Ajay Prabhu had raised this point. How can it be so? So, different people spoke and shared their thoughts and realizations on this. So this particular verse says how it is so. Of course, Ajay raised a very important point A mistake can happen, but repeating a mistake is foolishness, or then you really don't care. So even if you commit the most abominable act, Krishna puts you back on the path of devotion. Maybe you get the consequences from a material perspective, but the condition is you don't repeat it. And I think Ajay Prabhu used the word wholeheartedly. That's where the point was being discussed. So a person makes a mistake, he recognizes what he has done. And if I remember right, it was Shachi Mata who said that how can one atone for their transgression? So we all make mistakes. And one of the polite words, golden words, is to say, I'm sorry. But better than saying sorry is go and ask the person to whom you offended or hurt, what can I do to make it right? So making mistake, Krishna understands this is the nature and he doesn't cast you away. But on us, the onus is be very careful we don't repeat this mistake. Correct? So even if it's an imperfect, Krishna takes him safely. And there are two activities. Why this happens is because we have someone taking to the path. One is, a constitutional nature. Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishnera Nitya Das. We are the eternal servitors of Krishna. That is who the Atma is. And then we have at the bodily, conditional. So these are the two types of activity a jiva is involved in. So like a jiva is like in the middle, and there are these two activities that he's either this or that. So sometimes that activity could be parallel. So there is no conflict. But sometimes they may be diametrically opposed to doing it. So I think also there was this discussion about if I go to, I think it was Bimal Prabhu, relative's house. Now, when you're doing bhakti, there's a certain type of a diet that you follow. And let's say you go to your relative's house or a friend's person's house, they invite you over. How would you be able to do that? So a devotee is someone who would be able to balance both. And he won't do one at the expense of another. And it ties in back to that work that whatever you do, whatever all your activities, dovetail it towards Krishna. So this is 9.30. And then we have how a person who has committed, a devotee who has committed an offense, what happens? He again comes back on the straight path. Krishna arranges it for this, provided there is acceptance of what he has done. There's recognition. He says, yes, this is where I went wrong. He makes a resolve to be very careful. And he doesn't go about repeating that mistake again. He doesn't take it casually. मैं क्या कर सकता है? मेरा तो आदत ही है ऐसा. थोड़ा बहुत I'm trying to do na in my devotion. I'm trying what to do. My nature is like this. I'm a human being. I'm full of faults. Krishna will understand. That is an excuse. That's a cop-out. But if you're really serious about bhakti, if I'm really serious about bhakti, I make a mistake, I'll make amends for that mistake, and I'll be very, very careful not to repeat it. For such a person, Krishna very quickly brings him back on track. Right? That's why he says, my devotee will never perish. Why we engage in bhakti? That is yesterday's verse, which Hari Kishore so nicely explained, Prabhu. Correct? Again, this ties into, it is open to everybody, no matter what a physical condition, mental condition may be. Like man and women are created separately. Man is more strong, women have better emotional understanding, and so on and so forth. It doesn't matter who you are. Everyone can attain Krishna. Correct? The thing is, if you need to take shelter of Krishna, it has to be done through his pure devotee. His devotees are nothing but representatives. So, you have the example of a post box. Of course, now it's all email. Once upon a time when we were children, In India, used to have that red post box, like a cylinder with a black thing on top, like a cap. And then you want to send a letter to your friend or a pen pal. You write the address and you go and put it into the post box. And then a postman comes, he takes it and he goes and delivers it. And then it reaches your friend, whatever message that you've given. So similarly, when we're trying to establish a connection with Krishna, you have these devotees, his pure devotees. And they're the one, whatever it is, our love, our devotion, they are the via medium through which it reaches Krishna. So taking shelter of Krishna happens through his pure devotee. Why pure devotee? If you take a box, you take your letter and you put it anywhere. You go and put it in a dumpster. That also is a box only. Will it reach? No. So a devotee, and a devotee would also guide. Most important. Okay, don't do it like this, do like this. You have a difficulty, you have a problem, you ask. They're there, they've been there, they've done that, they understand what it is. So it's not just philosophy, it's not just Shastra. Shastra is not text, Hari Kishore Prabhu had said, it is context. And that context is what a devotee explains. Otherwise, we'll jump up in our own conclusion. And there are people who have read it and they say, no, this is not like this. It's not Krishna, but that Krishna inside Krishna is Krishna. And all kinds of khichdi is being pakawed over there. But a person who has seen the truth, who has realized the truth, a representative, he is the person. And the representative is not knowledge. Knowledge is one aspect. More important than knowledge is the prachar. There is achar and there is prachar. Your achar is your behavior. It's very easy to speak. Even a parrot can be taught. But how your behavior, is your behavior in line with what we are talking? Practice what you preach. Then there is today's verse. So it's not just for people who are with one condition, it's even those who are kind of elevated. If there is a Raja Rishi or someone who comes from a wealthy family, doesn't have to struggle a lot, a king or whoever it is, doesn't matter who you are. Anyone and everyone can engage in bhakti. So Krishna helps all, he doesn't discriminate. The thing is free will. You want help, you go to Krishna, he'll help you. Then why? Because the world is a temporary, dukhale ashasvatam. It's explained that whatever joy, Prabhupada said, whatever joy and happiness that we feel is temporary, and all of us have this experience. When you buy a new car, how happy you are when you drove out of the parking lot. You sat in the new car smell, ha ha ha. How nice we feel. Very careful we are. When you go shopping, to ShopRite or wherever, you'll park far away. So, no one should bang my car, no scratch and everything should come. So careful we are with that car. Then maybe even the car key, you won't keep it in the normal place on the key hanger near the door. Oh, what if a robber comes, first thing he'll take my car. So you take it and put it under your pillow and you sleep with it. So precious that car is, so much joy it gives. What happens? After a few months, whatever happens, then it becomes a gaadi hai. And in a few months, few years, then we'll say, oh, we need a new car. The same car which gave us so much joy. Oh, I had now this car is there, now I need a better car. So it is temporary, whatever joy we have. Whatever joy we experience is temporary. And in every joy, there is a seed of sorrow. That's the material condition. It's only a matter of time before that fruit of sorrow fructifies. In fact, it is a constant thing of misery. It's something like human beings breathe air. So if someone takes your head and puts it in a tank of water, you can't breathe. It is so uncomfortable. Your lungs are bursting. And then that person pulls you up. And when you come up, you have a great gasp of air. And that gives us relief. So similarly, like this, the joy that we experience is a temporary relief. And whatever is our karma, whatever actions of the past and present, it dunks us again into misery. And then again, whatever good deed that we did, little bit, it picks us up. And we do, and again we are dunked in. So that temporary cessation of misery, where we come up for that gasp of air, is what we foolishly think that is happiness. But that's not happiness. This verse, also today's verse, cancels the Mayavad philosophy, which says the world is false. It is all false. It is all false. No, this is not. It's all false. You're in an illusion. It's all false. Toothache is real. All of us experience it when you go for root canal. Why do you shout then when there is toothache if it is false? It is not false. It is a reality, but it is temporary. That is the correct understanding. So when someone engages in bhakti, it literally solves the problems of life. We think problem is what? A money problem. Oh, my child doesn't listen to me. Oh, my boss takes all my credit away. Oh, I may lose my job. All these small, whatever we say, kitch of life, the rat race that we are running around here and there. But no, when you take to devotional service, not only will it take care of these basal things, but even the real problems. The real problem is birth, old age, disease, and death. It takes care of these things. Our consciousness is set in the right path. And then this is tomorrow's word. Always think of me, become my devotee. You will come to me. Worship Krishna directly. You don't have to go to a demigod. Demigods are also his representatives. Think of Krishna as a person. It's not abstract. Now, thinking favorably, okay, comes also as thinking of Krishna, but in enmity, not in love. Cultivate knowledge continuously. Krishna is unlimited, and there's no end to what you can know about him. And even hearing the same pastimes and the same stories, as long as it's done with intention of seriousness and wanting to know more, you'll know more and more. It doesn't get stale at all. And of course, from a bona fide teacher, not someone who's putting his own explanation. What he heard from his guru, the disciplic succession. Okay, so finally, bringing this to a close, summary of chapter 9. What is its purpose and how we can implement it? What is the purpose? So the common theme through the entire chapter 9 is Krishna is pleading with us. He's pleading. The word is pleading. Please choose the right path. So many lives and so many opportunities we've got through the circle of life and death. We have come to this human form. You have a higher intellect. Please use it, Baba, for the right thing. Become an exclusive devotee. That's the highest perfection of life. We think the highest perfection of life, and we define success, and we all chase success on basis of what we have, possessions. He's a very successful person. Before 30, he made his first $1 million. But the problems of life haven't gone out for him or her. So this is what Krishna is pleading through the entire chapter 9, the confidential. Please become an exclusive devotee. Why? So that we can easily follow that purpose. Sarva dharman parityaja, the entire instruction of Bhagavad Gita comes down in one verse. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam praja. Aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshishyami ma suchaha. Forget whatever you did, no matter how grievous. Don't fear. Just surrender unto me. Surrender is that false ego. And a choice that we make, my free will, I will use it in service of Krishna and his devotees. That's how one gets onto the right path. How we do it? 4 techniques. Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha. We know this, right? From Chaitanya Charitamrita. What does it mean? Associate with sadhu. Who is a sadhu? Sadhu is not someone who's just wearing an orange color clothes and holding a danda in his hand and who can give great pravachan and bhashan. No. Sadhu is someone who has dedicated his thought, word, deed is everything towards Krishna. Associating with those people. Then Shravanam Kirtanam, books. Read it scrutinizingly, not casually. When we read it scrutinizingly, new meaning comes to us. We will have questions, get them cleared. Distribute. Simeshwar Prabhu is doing Puneet Prabhu, Simeshwar Prabhu, and so many devotees. Sit with them when they're having these meetings on book distribution. Why? Why sit with them? Because that's our gratitude. Prabhupada wrote these books how long back? Till today, it is changing people's lives. People who come in new, people who've been there for 50 years also. So just distribute, किसी और का भी भला होएगा. You could distribute by either sponsoring books, you could distribute either by helping Puneet set up the inventory in the warehouse. You could, with ideas, you could give. So, but read the book, read that book. Then other is chanting, actually chanting just by chanting Mahamantra, everything is included in it. Chanting properly. And then finally, Mahaprasade Govinde, through what we eat. And D is that deity worship also, Archanam. So when we can engage in this, you get it, this will help us surrender. And this makes us an exclusive devotee. So Prabhu, Mataji's, thank you. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is a picture when Jefferson Airplane, this is I think in the late 60s, early 70s. Prabhupada, whom did Prabhupada transform? Hippies. They used to smoke, they used to, do acid, LSD, smoke ganja. All whatever regulative principle you can think of, they used to break it. Society had discarded them, all youngsters in their 20s. Many of the Indian fakirs and sadhus and babajis came and stayed with them. But I was listening to this interview. So one of them said, Swamiji, he came here for us. Everyone else who came here came for themselves so that their glory and their power and all could increase. He came to serve us. Prabhupada would serve them. He would cook for them, take care of them as their children, no expectation in return. And they gave their lives to Prabhupada. And so many of them today are sannyasis and leading members in ISKCON. This gentleman whom you see over here with the beard, bottom left, Allen Ginsberg. He was a great poet and philosopher of the beatnik, which is basically counterculture. They had so much, and Prabhupada had this Kirtan festival over here. And he just transformed people's lives. That's the importance of a pure devotee. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions, reflections? We can, I don't know, it's already past our time. But if there's time, Simeshwar Prabhu can decide, or we can put it in the Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya group.
Jai, thank you so much, Amritananda Prabhuji, for a wonderful, wonderful class. So
Thank
much
you,
of
my friend.
really, everybody can take it. And this is what it is, systematic study of Bhagavad Gita. It gives us an opportunity to deep dive into the practical application of the bhakti, especially this, most confidential knowledge. This one, what is we need to take it in our life. So this definitely help us in so many ways, and we can have some progress in bhakti. That's what is we need. So thank you, Amritananda Prabhuji, and I would like to request devotees if there are any questions. I mean, it's very important. I mean, it's also that way we can understand that, yes, I mean, what we were speaking or what we are talking about is it makes sense, or this way, there is a proper, it's more clarifying that the discussion. So that it goes deep into the heart. it's always good to have some discussion. Srila Prabhupada always goes with that flow of it, that as soon as the class is over, Prabhupada asks, Srila Prabhupada used to ask any questions. You have any questions? So many questions, they're raised. So that developed a wonderful understanding of our understanding, right? So thank you. Please open up. Wonderful discussions. And always Krishna's topic is the transcendental subject matter. Even if you're thinking of that one is purifying, then what to speak about, just speaking on it. Thank you, Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, very nicely explained today. Prabhuji jotted down all very nicely, presented very nicely. Felt very nice. I want to share one thing like Prabhupada, Prabhuji mentioned about Prabhupada. Also, like recently I saw the clip on YouTube of a short film on Prabhupada. In that, somebody asked Prabhupada, if you die, what will happen to the movement, and who will take care? That question, a reporter or somebody raises, and Srila Prabhupada mentions, "I will never die." That was very powerful statement. That really, Prabhupada is always living through his books. So today also, as Prabhuji mentioned, even after so many years, we are still reading Prabhupada's books. So that I felt very nice. Like, yes, Prabhupada is live, and he's there. That's what I felt.
Very nice, Ajay Prabhu. Very nice. Books are so important. Actually, books is such an integral part in all our lives. First we learned how to speak with our mummy and daddy. They taught us. Then we went to KG class. The teachers taught us ABCD. What is knowledge? Knowledge is a great enabler. It helps us do things. हमारे में काबिलियत बनाती है. We've been doing so far with the mind and the body, that knowledge. So these books, the spiritual books, whom did Prabhupada write it for? Whom did he write it for? The Janta, all of us. And reading is the greatest service, is a gratitude we can do. Believe me, if we make it as a habit, even if you read one verse every day, doesn't matter. Start with even one verse, start with 5 minutes a day also, but keep it as a regular thing. The transformation which happens. Krishna Anand Prabhu, there are certain things, from this group I have learned, and it has changed my life. Information is meant for transformation. Information is meant for transformation. And by reading just and making it a habit, you can see how the changes happen. So, good point, Ajay Prabhu. And you can actually feel Prabhupada's presence. Someone may say he's just being emotional or whatever it is, but just try it and you'll see it. I was asking Dhir Govind Prabhu, in our congregation, no one has actually seen Prabhupada because we were too young. I'm one of the older persons in the congregation. I'm close to 60. So when Prabhupada was there, I must have been about 9 years, 10 years, or whatever. So Dhir Govind Prabhu, who's a little bit older, he has actually seen Prabhupada at New York Rath Yatra. So I was talking with him 3-4 days back, and I asked Dhir Govind Prabhu, what was it like to see Prabhupada? So he says, I saw him only from far. He was sitting on the Rath Yatra cart, Subhadra Maharani's cart. You have 3 carts, right? So he says, I was seeing him. And he really didn't know who Prabhupada is, Kaun and all that is. He's saying, all these foreigners are dancing and singing and all that bhajan. And he went there and on the street, New York, and he saw Prabhupada from a distance. He says, but just by looking at Prabhupada only, I knew this is someone who is very pure. He hasn't read his book. He hasn't heard his lecture or anything, just by the sight. So the power of a pure devotee, just by even looking at him, one begins his journey back to Godhead. So Dhir Govind Prabhu is one of the leading congregation members. He's dedicated his life. Few years back, he lost his wife. And Mataji had what a glorious death, the way she left her body. She had cancer, unfortunately, which was painful. And she literally left her body smiling. So, and he was sharing with me all these things. So see how it transformed, how it started the journey. And that same effect is there in that book. If you open a book and read it scrutinizingly, not casually, that effect happens. So thank you, Ajay Prabhu, for that. Hare Krishna.
It was wonderful, Prabhuji. Yes, exactly. Yesterday, we had a discussion with Vaisheshika Prabhu. Vaisheshika Prabhu was made a wonderful point that touched my heart. Prabhuji was saying that if one goes out or one distributes one book to a soul, you're completely changing his entire, his all benedictions, entire future. He's changing that person's entire everything. The life changes just by an association, just by giving a book to that new person. There are so many souls out there, and this is the only way that one can save himself from this ocean of this material suffering. This is the beginning, and it helps a lot. So I think it is everybody, those who are part of this, and those who are benefited, this association, this Sangha, this Srila Prabhupada's instruction, and the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Mercy is like a tree. So it should sprout and it should grow with many branches. Then only it fructifies a beautiful, the fruits comes out that should, satisfy everybody, that fruits of mercy. So every devotee should be very merciful towards the other living entities and other, souls. So it's very important. Yes, you brought up that point, and Ajay Prabhu also brought up that point. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. You're putting all this together, Prabhu. Thank you. It means
mercy.
so much to all of us, believe me.
It's mercy of Srila Prabhupada. It's Srila Prabhupada's, vision, Srila Prabhupada's desire that all this happen. We are all an instrument. The desires of Srila Prabhupada. Yes, whatever the desire that would happen. Srila Prabhupada is not an ordinary personality on this planet, manifested on this planet. Srila Prabhupada is not an ordinary. Srila Prabhupada is a direct representative of the Supreme Lord on this planet for our benefits, for our good fortune. So literally, we should take each and every word of Srila Prabhupada, and that benefits us. Nothing will lose, that we are not going to lose anything, but it's all benefits. It's all mercy, all our, it's good for our life, good for our entire family and their community and their world. There is nothing else better than this in this world. Nothing else better than this in this world. All we need to do is accept wholeheartedly, take it wholeheartedly, apply it wholeheartedly, promote it wholeheartedly, and follow.
Yeah.
So that's all we need to do. Thank you.
Very good, Prabhu. So if no one has any question, we can bring it to a close. And whatever we learn, putting it into practice has more effect. Knowledge is good. When we put in practice, there's realization. And from realization will come that awakening and wisdom. And I think, Prabhu, you're doing on 9th, you told, no? What was that for doing we were going Nagar Kirtan, no?
12th Saturday, Ekadashi.
12th Saturday.
Yeah.
So great opportunity, Prabhu's, Mataji's. If you can make it, try and make it. It'll arrange. If you have a little desire, it'll happen. And it's very enlivening. Very enlivening. So Prabhu will send out the flyer or whatever. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thank you, Puneet Prabhu. So we will also probably have some conference call on the weekend for our next weekend plans. So please tune. We'll put a date for the further discussion on this. Thank you. Okay, if there is nothing else, then let's conclude. Is that okay?
Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. I have one question.
Please go ahead.
Prabhuji was saying about the soul, and this soul, actually, like I have question when we should not seek about the happiness. So inside happiness, like what we feel when we have inside happiness, does we need to like that is also the same thing like what Prabhuji was telling, like happiness always, when the happiness is there, the sad thing also is there, like in that bhav, like about when we're praying to the Lord. So everything comes like night and the day comes and the night comes. So same way, when the happiness is there, even the inside happiness, not about the material, uh, that for that also we have the something opposite to that. I want that question.
There is, Mataji, your question, if I understand it right, is that here we have duality, that there is happiness, there is sorrow. If it is hot, there's also cold, and so forth.
Yes.
There's always these dualities. So your question is that when we have the real happiness, what you call the inner happiness, is there
Yes,
also
inner.
duality in that case?
Yes, yes.
Correct. The
Yes.
duality that we are talking about in this material sense causes distress. Whereas in a spiritual sense, when what you're calling inner happiness, I'm calling spiritual happiness. And spiritual happiness is such, Mataji, that it is exponential. It doesn't remain so much. So for example, Hema Jagannath Prabhu gives the example that if I eat a gulab jamun, and when I take a bite and all the flavors explode in my mouth, it gives me so much pleasure that, that taste, it gives me that pleasure. But then it gets over, maybe in a minute or 2 minutes. Whereas spiritual happiness is something that it is always growing. It doesn't stop, it's always growing. Now, in spiritual happiness also, there may be something like anxiety, for example. Now, anxiety in a material thing is detrimental. It causes a lot of damage. Mentally as well as physically, it causes the damage. But in spiritual anxiety, it creates a sense of a greater joy, so to say, and it brings us closer to Krishna. So like there is a term which is called Vipralamba Bhava. So there is tremendous pleasure when one is in connected with Krishna, in direct contact with Krishna. When Krishna is in the presence. So there is tremendous pleasure, like what the gopis have, what his sakhas have with him. However, when Krishna is absent, when he's not physically present with them, then he's there in their mind and they're feeling a lot of separation. So it is a kind of an anxiety. Yashoda Mai feels a kind of an anxiety. Oh, my Lalla has gone out in the forests. The gopis feel he has such soft feet. Those thorns will poke him. So it is causing them some kind of distress. But this spiritual distress is the highest form of ecstasy, which makes them fully absorbed in Krishna. So to answer your question, Mataji, the duality, so to say, duality, or the appearance of duality in the spiritual context is only increasing that ananda, that bliss
So there won't be
component.
any sorrows then in that. Okay.
Hanji? Yeah, but
At the
we
end,
don't know whether
we are going to meet, like we are going to direct contact with God then in that way.
Yeah.
When happiness is there. Okay.
Yeah.
I understood. So that's what I want to know. Like when you were explaining about this happiness and the sorrow. So when we have that happiness, like I was feeling, like I was thinking, that is inside bliss, spiritual happiness. So there won't be any sorrows or anything. Just it goes on increasing only. Okay,
it
thank you
goes
very
on.
much.
And the sorrow is not like what we understand sorrow. And
Okay.
actually, we haven't even tasted. Sometimes we just have a reflection. It may happen during kirtan, something just moves us. It may happen by something happens and a feeling that we haven't felt before, something like that. So, but through practice, through knowledge, through just asking Krishna, Krishna, I want to love you. I don't know how to love you. Govardhan Bhakta Prabhu said, treat Krishna as a person. And he talks with Krishna when he's driving to work. Like Krishna sitting beside him, he's talking to Krishna like as though there's a person in the car. He is a person. So someone may say he's gone mad. But see the thinking, Krishna is a person. It's not just in the book that we are reading that Krishna is a person. So if we start treating him like a person, ask him, he reciprocates. He's given that. He's written his word. He says it.
So
So,
in that way, we can
Krishna, I
feel.
don't know how to love you.
Yes.
Yeah,
I am.
you'll start feeling his presence.
Yes.
Gradually, it starts happening.
Okay.
And it has to be experienced, Mataji. It can't be, how to say, maybe I'm not good at explaining it, but thank you
Yes.
for your question and your realization. Thank you.
And one more thing is, like, what is Tattvam? I want to know about. Is it Tattvam is related something about the deeper knowledge, or exactly? I'm not able to understand, but
Tattva.
what is?
Tattva has many connotations. One of them is the truth or a fact or reality. So like we say that there is Jiva Tattva. We are Jiva, our position. We are living entity. So what is that living entity? So you can get more into details. And there are many Tattvas which is there. So something which is establishing whatever is that particular thing. What is
Okay.
it rooted in? What is it? So Jiva Tattva is that it is part and parcel. It is an energy. It is the marginal energy of the Supreme Personality. And what is his position? He's the eternal servitor. So like this, then you also have the external energy. That is also a Tattva. So Tattva is something which establishes the I don't know if I've explained it, Mataji, but
Yeah, I
what
understood. I
explains
understood
the...
Tattvam.
Of course, you
Yes.
can also say the truth. It can
Yes.
also be used as the truth.
So when we are getting into soul, like we need to Aham Brahmasmi, what you said, when we are getting into that, like that only with one line, Aham Brahmasmi,
Yeah.
we need to think about the body in our body itself. Like body, there is a body for hand, and the soul is also there in the hand, and also we have a body too, we have a soul too. So we need to get deeper into that soul consciousness with Tattvam in the
That
body.
is self-realization, what you're talking about. Who are you, the self? That's
Yes.
what we call the soul. So understanding what the soul is. So that chapter 2, I'm not the body, I'm the soul.
Yes.
So
Yes.
understanding the characteristics of the soul, the nature of the soul. Now people say that only soul is abstract, it's an energy. Yes, it is an energy. But the soul also has a personality. Now it is like, example is given like a drop of seawater. So the soul is exactly like Krishna, qualitatively. Sat Chit Anand. Sat is eternal, it can never be destroyed. Chapter 2. No wind can dry it, no water can wet it, no sword can cut it, no fire can burn it. It is indestructible, it is eternal. That is the Sat aspect. Then there is the Chit aspect. Chit is the awareness, full of awareness. When you're full of awareness, when you're aware of something, you have knowledge of that thing. And then there is Ananda, bliss, full of bliss. The only difference is that a drop is minuscule, whereas the ocean is immense. So Krishna has this Satchitanand unlimitedly, whereas the soul has it infinitesimally. And this thing is who the soul is. So the more we understand self-realization, that we come to know who Krishna is. So yes, Aham Brahmasmi. People just think Aham Brahmasmi. The Mayavadis think it is just a energy and they leave it at that. But there is a deeper understanding of Aham Brahmasmi. And when we realize that, then automatically we start serving. It doesn't become a problem to get up in the morning. It doesn't become a problem to engage in acts of devotional service. It becomes reflexive. Very good
Yes.
points, Mataji.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. And one more thing also, I have a question, one more also. Does any body has any human being, I'm talking about any human being, when it is men, even they have the female personality, when one person, I say one person name is A and he's a man.
Yeah.
And does they have a female
Yes.
female duality like
Yes.
inside within them?
Yes.
Like I want to know about it.
Sure.
Because I
There
heard
is-
it from some lecture like
Yeah.
that. Like what
There
is exactly what is the inner meaning of it? Like when female is
Yeah.
there, even the female has the men
course.
qualities, like men
Yes.
duality.
Yes.
So that also,
The-
what is exactly this?
If you look at it plainly from a body perspective, we'll look at it from the physical body side, and then we look at it from a subtle body, and then we look at it from a spiritual aspect. What the point you raised, Mataji. Biologically, the male has, what's it called? Estrogen, right? Estrogen. So there is the testosterone, which makes a male, which gives beard and all that stuff, and muscle mass and all that. And there is also the hormone called estrogen. So it doesn't matter. Then similarly, a female has estrogen and the testosterone. Now these, in a male, the testosterone is much more and the estrogen is little less, whereas female. And these hormones influence the thinking and behavior and everything else. So this duality is there in the physical form also. That's at one level to understand it. Sometimes there can be imbalances. And that's why you see that there are some women who are very manly, and there are some men who are very ladylike. Though they have the body of a man, but they'll be ladylike. So it's this estrogen and the testosterone. And of course, it also affects the thinking of what we have. Now, today, science has come to a stage that there may be a person who's born in a male body, but identifies himself as a woman. So by doing surgery, he can actually get a female body and vice versa. So that is one aspect. Now, the other aspect from a spiritual sense, and this Yagya Purush Prabhu, a brahmachari from New York Temple, had explained it. So everybody is what you call Stri, woman. Krishna is the only Purusha. Purusha by definition is the enjoyer, and Stri is the enjoyed. So everything, all Krishna's energy, this entire creation, Shrishti, everything, jivas, are all Stri, meant for his enjoyment. And when he enjoys, the jiva derives pleasure from that. So what happens is the form that a jiva assumes, whether male, female, human, duck, dog, crow, tree, doesn't matter. There are many forms. Whatever form he achieves is based on his proclivity to engage in a type of service with Krishna. This is in the spiritual what we're talking. In the material, we get a form based on a karma. So from spiritual understanding, we are all meant to be enjoyed. Therefore, we are Stri. The body that we get is based on everyone has a certain tendency or a proclivity to engage. So someone may want to engage with Krishna in a relationship of a mother. So they will get a female body. Someone will be like a gopi. Someone wants to be his friend, so it will be like a gopa, saka. Someone will have in the Shantaras with awe and reverence. They could be cows, they could be the bull. So many, there are so many. You could be Radharani's parrots. Doesn't matter. So on the spiritual platform, there is this variegatedness, but everyone is on the platform of Stri as enjoyed. And the body is just a vehicle with which to engage in that relation with Krishna.
Yes.
Does that answer, Mataji? Or perhaps
Yes, I
Meshwar
got
Prabhu
the
is
answer.
more
I
realized?
was looking for this spiritual wise only, not like men converting into nowadays it's
Yeah,
happening now scientifically. I was asking for the spiritual one.
yeah.
And when ladies are like when it comes to the women, Krishna is enjoying, and when it comes to the men, like who will be for them? Like, is it like Radharani or any like which god they think about it? I
I
know
didn't
like
understand, Mataji, the question.
when it is a woman, like
Yeah.
for every woman, Lord Krishna is the spiritual supreme personality of Godhead, and he is the Purusha.
Yeah.
And when it comes to men, like men, how the Bhav they think about all those things, duality things, what you explain now.
For male also, because male has a particular relation, right? So if there is, it doesn't mean this body of mine, and this body is currently male. And with mercy, let's say for example, the person goes back to Godhead. He need not necessarily have a male body. He could have a female body. He need not necessarily have a human body. He could be a bird. He could be a duck. Whatever is that jiva's proclivity, the jiva has desires. So that desire that he wants to engage with Krishna in a particular relation. Krishna is Akhil Rasa Rasamrita. He's the total, all types of relation. He's the storehouse of all the relations. In fact, that's the reason why he's Sham Sundar, dark color, because every relation has a particular color and a hue or a shade. When all that color spectrum gets assimilated, it becomes the color of the dark rain cloud, Sham Sundar. This is how Romapad Maharaj had explained why Krishna is Sham Sundar. So that relationship, which is unique, it's unique between Krishna and that particular jiva. So when that jiva is in the material world, he commits actions, activities, gets karma, this, that, and accordingly he gets the body to fulfill his desire. So someone who's, let's say, a meat eater and enjoys meat, his next life perhaps he gets a body which will be suitable to eat meat, like a tiger or a dog or a cat, a canine or whatever, a meat eater. So like this, there are 8.4 million body forms, from the bacteria right up to the elephant. So depending on whatever the person's nature and desires and karma he's accumulating all that, he gets it. Now in the spiritual world, the soul still has a desire. It can never be desireless. So when the soul has that desire, there is that fundamental, what they call the, forget, Sameshwar Prabhu can help me, I think it's called Swarupa Siddhi, that particular aspect of the soul, the fundamental desire. And that's how he engages with Krishna. So everyone is with Krishna. It is not that only women think of Krishna and engage in a relationship. Even with women, the relationships are many.
My question, because always I think in that way. Only the women think Krishna is a Purusha, and how about men? Men, do they think Krishna as how, in what? Like I got the answer now. What you explained.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Sameshwar Prabhu, you would be able to, I don't know.
Jai, wonderful discussion. Valid points, very deep into the subject matter. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Murdana Prabhu. It's amazing. Thank you. So let's conclude then. It's already 8:34. We also don't want to hold the devotees as this is, this is eternal, but also at the same time, we should, Okay, so if there is nothing else, then let's conclude. Is that okay?
Yes,
okay. Okay. So, Vancha kalpatarubhasya.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Nirashri Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Kodi Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Gaurav,
Jai Prabhupada.
Hari
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.